Hi and welcome back to the channel. I thought I would do a quick walk around of the engine bay on my MG6 just to point out some of the obvious servicing parts and what things are and where they are location wise. Might help out some people that aren't up to I don't know. I'm pretty au fait with cars and know what everything is if you show me a picture, but not everyone is. So we'll walk around the engine bay and talk about a few bits and pieces that you can check if you're thinking of buying a car, or if you've already got one and you've got issues and you want to know the location of a few things. So we start off with a common question is, what oil do I put in my MG6 and how much? So on this yellow sticker here at the bottom it says 4.5 litres of engine oil and the grade should be a 5W40. And above that is the coolant, and it takes just under 8 litres of coolant, and obviously the coolant would go in the radiator. Now you can't get to the radiator because it's at the front, so cars have an expansion tank because water expands when it's hot, and there's a minimum and a maximum over here, so you can unscrew the lid, top it up and make sure it's in between there. What else should we talk about? We can fill up the windscreen washers, which is here with a little cap. It's not very big and you need to keep topping it up during the winter, or if you use it a lot. The actual reservoir for it is in the above the wheel in the wing. What else? Here is the brake reservoir for the servo behind it and the master cylinder. So again, it's got a min and a max on there, so you want to check that that's in that range. And obviously as your pads wear all around the car, it will drop a little bit, so you don't need to overfill it. If you change your pads, the reservoir oil will go back up as you push the pistons back in. How to check your oil? So the dipstick is here, you just pull it out, give it a wipe, push it back in, leave it 5 seconds and then pull it out again and look at the level. You want it between the min and the max, and on some cars it's really obvious and on other cars it's not. I'd say it's not fantastically obvious here. It looks like a big range, but the max is up here. And if it's low, you want to top up your oil, so you can top it up with your removing your cap here. And don't forget, if you're adding cold oil into a warm engine, it'll heat up quite quickly and dribble all the way to the bottom, but it won't show on the dipstick until all the oil is at the bottom. So wait a little while to check that, because you can sometimes beat the oil to the bottom of the engine as it runs through all the galleries and runs through to the bottom. So this is the battery. MG6 is a little bit sensitive to voltage, so always make sure you've got a well-spec'd battery. This is a 77 amp hour, 800 amp, 12 volt. Obviously, all cars are 12 volts. Make sure that the earth and the live terminals are pushed all the way down, so you can see the knob in the top, and make sure they're tight, but don't over tighten them because it's soft metal and you can strip the thread or break the connector. These two earths go to one to the fuse box and one to the chassis, and the positives at the back goes to the fuse box. This is the fuse box, and there'll be another live that will go to the alternator and the starter motor, which takes a lot of juice when you're starting a car. So the alternator is at the front, runs off the auxiliary belt, or I think some people call it the serpentine belt, because it snakes all through the pulleys. The air conditioning pump is just at the back. The water pump is embedded in there somewhere, and the cam belt is under here. So if I remove my cover, I'll show you a bit easier. I don't run with a cover. It covers things up and I like to keep an eye on things. To take it off, it's just two 10mm bolts, these two, and you can keep that on and off. I jazzed up my rocker cover because I'm deemed a max power ricer. Anyway, we can see a bit more now. So this is the cam belt cover. So if you ever wanted to check the condition of your cam belt, you can undo the bolts that hold that on and pull this back, and you can see the cam belt under there, and you can see for wear, or you can give a guesstimate of how long it's been on there if you're not sure how long it's been. The starter motor is buried down under here. Some people have starting issues where you put your key in the dock and you get your dial sweep, but you don't actually get a click for it to start through the starter motor. That is the connecting wire that is on top, and if you look through this gap here, you can just see the spade terminal on the connector that is on top of the starter motor. If you take that off and give it a clean, that often rectifies that starting issue, and if it doesn't, then sometimes it's the dock itself. This is the throttle body where the air comes in, and it's a fly-by-wire from the pedal, so there's no connection via a cable. It's just electronic cable, not a physical cable. The turbo is located in the front here at the bottom, hanging off the manifold. The boost pipes mostly at the front all here. There's an intercooler buried under the passenger side front bumper corner, so the air gets pumped by the turbo through the intercooler. The intercooler cools it a little bit because when you compress air it gets hot. You don't really want hot air going into your engine as much, so the intercooler will cool that down a little bit, and then it will come up here. There's a boost sensor here, and then it will come into your throttle body, into your plenum chamber, mixes with the injectors that are on each runner, and then that will go into your engine. The ECU is in here, a little exposed, but easy to check. Should be kept quite dry there. This is the central location. Just behind it on the bulkhead is the ABS pump, so that will sort your ABS out when you're heavily braking. All the brake pipes join up to that and then go off to their locations at each corner of the car. I've got an aftermarket air filter. When you add one of these pod air filters, the sucking turbo noises, induction noises, and the recirculating dump valve when you come off throttle is quite prominent and quite noisy, which is great fun if you're having a fun car. Probably not something you want if you're a bit more of an executive drive or a stealthy family drive, but it's easy enough to change and swap back to standard. I've not actually changed anything, I've just removed the standard air filter box and kept it. I have a Tdi Tuning Box which I've located here, and you can up and down the maps 1 to 7. So this just joins into the loom for the boost sensor, tricks the signal, and you get a bit more boost on higher settings. Going back to the power steering, this is the power steering reservoir, so you want to make sure that that is filled up and not overfull, and that's about it. There's some engine mounts that hold the engine and the gearbox in place, so there's a little bit of movement on these rubber mounts. There's a big one here, there's one down the front of the gearbox, there's one off the back of the gearbox, and I think there's one on the inner chassis leg from the passenger side. And that's about it, I think. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments below. If you'd like me to do any other specific videos, put them in the comments and I'll try and get around to them. Thanks for watching.